First of all, it was a surprise to know there exists a Devangoshti Purna, a community of traditional weavers at the time of pre-independent India. I felt really proud that I belonged to the background of textile designers. However, I felt sad that the community had to discontinue the practice. However, I feel it was necessary because otherwise I still would have been poor. We still would have been poor. I would not be able to take admission in NIT. I would have been helping my father with making cloth dyeing and getting it ready, and then maybe selling it. Expresses a student at NIT Haryana of Foundation. Voices, introspections, reflections, and epiphany. This paper presentation is a case study in exploring how can we situate a designer in multicultural contexts and open up the discussion and allow multiliteracy. For a country like India, the idea of multiliteracy becomes even more critical. Being a multi-ethnic and multilingual society with 122 languages and 234 mother tongue, it becomes important to allow every voice to matter. In order to do this, the intent was to open up a question: what is culture? For each student, which represented India, spread across 17 states of the country. At the same time, probing questions, taking this up as an opportunity to look inward and introspect. Through this assignment of tracing a cultural change in one's own family by interviewing a family member, the students were asked to summarize an excerpt of the interview conversation and also write their own reflections of having gone through this journey. Institutionally and in terms of curriculum development, this meant including a dialogue among the pluriverse of epistemic systems, situating design within the realm of cultural production. The persistent question that was addressed in the methodology of the course was: can we discover the politics of being the subject ourselves? What if the designer is the subject? Can this be helpful in challenging the assumptions, biases, predispositions that the designer himself carries in order to peel these complex layers? The information collected in the form of students' assignments and reflections has been analyzed here by using 3 different analysis tools: identity in multiple voices, epiphany, and narrative of change and the changing meanings. Who am I? Am I my nationality, language, or the day-to-day? Student from Nepal, currently in Dharamshala, Himachal, for 2 centuries, thinks about gods, festivals, and rituals. She wonders. Our duty primarily was non-vegetarian, but my mom makes pasta for lunch and we order pizza for dinner. Amongst all this, I don't even know Gurkhali, my native language. While undergoing these complex multiple voices of, is my identity associated with religion, place, location. These introspections touched upon the complex cultural intersections across gender, class, and language. Conflicts and tensions surfaced in the process of understanding cultural change across three generations. This also revealed that identity was a complex and multi layered entity which needed to be peeled off. In this process, there were moments of epiphany for the students. I would like to integrate the emotional value into my work and explorations with which my grandmom and mother engaged in their hobbies. Why are we being deprived of our culture? I was never able to open the doors of Dogri, vernacular language of state Jammu and Kashmir. Most people have used the approach of art to try to revive the language. If we don't know the meaning of what we do, as time passes, we begin to do them as per our convenience, and a strand of culture is lost. While the students acknowledged change is the only constant, this inward looking helped to be aware and confront the presumptions and predispositions that the aspiring designer had about their own sociocultural background. Perplexed with this idea that should he consider nose and earring an artifact or a practice? What meant inheritance for his grandmom meant adornment for mother and extension of personality and style statement for his sister. Culture, according to him, in a way evolves with the individual and individual interpretations leading to the day-to-day practices. Similarly, in case of another student, she asks herself about her community. Will sex be reduced to passive turbanators? Turbanator, a person who wears a turban. She enjoys watching her dad, brother don the colors of pride, but she's confronted with the question, is it an individual choice or a community symbol? How would her generation take it forward? While religion meant devotion for a student's grandmother and discipline for her mother, she confronted her disconnect about the concept of religion. And in this process, she's come to realize that the idea of religion is dynamic. There can be conflict, yet everybody finds a place for solace in the coexistence of two different approaches. With this, we are aware that in the process of borrowing pedagogy from West, the same has not only led to disregarding the vernacular of any cultural value and appreciation, in turn, it has led to cultural alienation and diasporic attitudes. If design education is about building attitudes and approach to learning, can a case study, for example, of student one who feels sad on discovering his family roots of a Koshti community that wove and traded textiles and discontinued the practice under economic pressure? I wonder, with this new awareness and acceptance of family history, would the designer be better equipped to empathize and also inspired to take a certain craft forward? Through the case study and analysis, as an educator, we found the tool to help students be sensitive and also be aware that as a designer, they ought to make conscious choices. In order to help the reflective practitioner, the case study proposes autoethnography as an effective tool in peeling the layers of tacit knowledge and culture and be better aware of knowing in action. Can this help a designer to form better system image, conceptual model? Is to be further tested over a period of time. Sum it up, the neglected, ignored day to day and tracing of culture, an unknown suddenly was seen in the new light of cultural identity and a repository. The critical question to confront towards emergence is to ask ourselves, what is our imagination of a future self? Is there one answer to this? Can this forward looking help us to confront value conflicts and hence find preferable futures? How can situating oneself in the pluriverse help us decolonize towards multiple futures? As well said and reflected by another student, after having gone through this journey, I have the privilege of choice and to question, and I will do my best to use that wisely. With that, we open it up for discussion on why must we sensitize the student to their culture and context first at the onset of embarking design journey. On behalf of all the authors, I thank you everyone. Shukriya. Myself, Mamta Gautam. On behalf of my co-authors, Shrinkhala and Snehal, thank you for your time.